Welcome back to the third and final tier list update. Now that the one preseason game has been done, we're going back and revisiting the tier lists that we made at the start of the preseason, reevaluating where each of the players in their respective lines are and kind of talking through the merits of whether or not you should pick them. And we've finally come back to the big one, the midfielders. There's a long list of players to go over and actually quite a large movement as a result of the preseason game. So let's just jump straight into it. Firstly, Lachie Neale hasn't changed. Perfect votes. Everyone said we'll finish top 8. Clayton Oliver, I think one person said that he wasn't a will finisher. It was like almost perfect score. But then some changes have been made at the top end. So surprisingly, Zach Merritt, on the back of a really strong performance, has jumped up into the third most favoured mid, which is a little bit surprising. I love Zach Merritt as a Bombers man, do not get me wrong. But to be third and to be, locked in as a will finish, he's had 2 top 8 finishes before. Great injury history, and he scored really well in the back of last year when he was getting lots of CBAs. From what we've seen in the preseason, that seems to be where he's playing so far. He's also one of the midfielders that can go really well both inside and out, and it seems like people that have a balanced game might be a little bit more favoured by the rules, given there's going to be less contested, less stoppages. So look, love Zach Merritt as a pick, but is he a will finish? Oh, that's tough. And then the other one that's kind of shot back up is Jackson Mcrae. So someone that's been perennial top Supercoach finisher. I think he's been top 4 3 of the last 4 years or something ridiculous like that. A lot of concern with the Bulldogs mids with adding in Treloar and them taking points from each other. But we saw Mcrae, Bont, Daniel, Dunkley all explode in that preseason game, and their ratings have been reflected. All of them have seen a big bump on the back of that. So maybe a little bit overreactionary, given Treloar does still have to come back and find his minutes. But yeah, Jack Mcrae, definitely liking that pick for now. And then Steele, look, I think he's like 1 vote left, but he was just on the cusp of top tier last time. He's moved down to top of A tier, or someone that should finish top 8. I think I've raised some of my concerns with Steele in the last video, but effectively players that have their breakout year very rarely back it up to the same standard, and especially given that he's done that in a COVID year, which was already a little bit weird. Someone that I could see falling back a little bit. He was very well-rounded game, great on the defensive side, but he needs to find more of the pill, needs to rack up the possessions, and that might even be harder this year with less stoppages. So, a little concern for Steele, and probably a no for me. But don't hate the pick. Just I think there's better options. Another one that's kind of moved up a fair bit and has fallen back in favour is Bont. He's been super consistent, finishing top 8. I think the thing that scares everyone off is what's Bever going to do with him. Is he the person that can go forward and deal with less mid minutes? If they're trying to keep Dunkley, if they're trying to give Treloar midfield time, maybe he's the one that suffers. But huge game in the preseason and people jumping back on. Next, my boy Josh Kelly's jumped back up, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable with how high he is. In the preseason he really didn't do much and still managed to ton up, which I guess is what you like to see from premiums kind of canter their way to a cheeky 100. Had a great preseason, won the time trial. Has improved his durability over the last 12 months. Let's hope that continues. Kind of touch wood. Next up is Petraka, who took a little bit of a dip. Still obviously rated quite highly, but struggled big time. He's someone that I've been off for similar reasons to Steele, in the sense that younger player breaking out, they rarely kind of back that up with as good or a better season. And on top of that, I am one of the people that are really concerned about his ability to run out 4 quarters in a regular season. I mean, it's 25% extra game time. It's 5 extra games across the course of the year. And when you look at Petraka's scoring by quarter, his second quarter was lower than his first, and his fourth quarter was lower than his third. So he seems to come out strong at a half and then taper off. And if you're adding game time to your halves, that really worries me. He's someone that I could see egg on my face, right? Steele and Petraka could be 1 and 2, but in terms of what I've seen and how history kind of played out, they're 2 that I'm probably avoiding for now. After Petraka is Titch, so he's fallen back a little bit, which makes sense. Didn't get to see him in the preseason whatsoever. He looks like he's going to limp into round 1 with that shoulder, but he's just the classic wait and see target. They've got the first buy, so I think it's someone that you go without and try and target after the first buy. And then finally, another old favourite, Fife has managed to kind of move his way back up into A tier on the back of really impressive game in the Amy series. It looked like he was playing more midfield time than what was originally talked about. They said he was going to play forward a lot more. We just didn't see it as much. But with Lob going down, you would have thought that would have pulled Fife forward more, and he still scored amazingly. So look, his injury history means he's probably not someone I'm going to touch, but if that's your only risky picking your team, I kind of get it. Next is Cripps. So there's actually like a really big gap between Fife and Cripps, quite large. So if you're looking kind of pick your midfielders, your premium midfielders, I would only be looking at S and A tier. I would be picking primarily from the S tier and maybe, your favourite from the A tier type thing. Maybe 2 of your favourites from the A tier and 2 from the top, something like that. Alright, so B tier we've got, Cripps at the top. He fell a large amount, and I think that's, quite reactionary on the back of a pretty poor Amy game, but like, I don't know, he's someone that I don't think has traditionally scored that well in the preseason anyway. I think he's taken it easy. I have a feeling he's going to be better than what we saw, but he is someone that was in my team and now isn't in my team, and I'm a little bit worried that he could burn me, but just given the price. So yeah, don't hate the pick. Next, someone else that fell down a little bit, but maybe not as much as others, is Matt Crouch. I wouldn't pick him. Next is Walsh, and then we've got Rao, which is kind of interesting that these two are now next to each other, given that a lot of people may be considering one or the other. I probably like Rao just because of the price and like the upside and the potential interests me, but second year player, I think with the exception of like Judd, has never gone on to be top 8, top 10 kind of relevant. So whether Rao can do it coming off an injury, playing for Gold Coast, not sure, but yeah, that's one that really interests me. Next we've got Adams, and then Treloar, who Adams actually fell a fair bit, which was kind of interesting. I guess like he's had injury issues, which makes sense why he's kind of dropped off a little bit. At the top of the next tier, we've got Lyons, who's fallen back, and Boak, who's also like fallen back a little bit as well. Alright, so this is a massive tier of players that could, but there are multiple reasons why they might not. So I'm going to probably quickly just move these around rather than talk through each of them, otherwise we're going to be here all night. So yeah, Taranto kind of at the top of the tier, definitely one people are still looking at. I think he's probably a little bit underrated, where he is. I would be considering him with, Walsh and Rao. And actually, I haven't really thought about Walsh at all, but I have thought about Rao and Taranto. So yeah, I feel like he's a little bit hard done by here. And for those that have been asking, not doing rucks because it's just Grundy and gone. Like, there's really no one else you should be looking at. So just pick those and be done. And then, could do a rookie one, but the reality is you should just be picking, based on what's available and their scoring off the preseason, looking at job security. So, like, I just feel like a tier list really isn't that useful because as soon as teams kind of come out, that's out the window. Alright, so after Mcrae, we've got Kelly, Took Miller, and look, like, a lot of these haven't changed by much, like, a point here or there, but given just how close this group is, it kind of means, they all kind of do a little shuffle around a little bit. So Guthrie, we've got Caleb Sarong. Where's he gone? There he is. He's one that's jumped a little bit, and so is Libba. So Libba was bust, and I don't know, this is just a good preseason score. Dog's getting a little bit of love, but he's jumped straight back up. Rockcliffe. Yo is going to go down in the injured tier, poor guy. OP is just, not a lot of fun. So Rocky, we've got Greenwood. We've got Crouch, which is like crazy that he's this high. He's suspended until round 3. I don't know how he's gone up. Somehow it's kind of miraculous. And then Bailey Smith as the bottom of C tier. So he's one of the dogs that hasn't gone up, and it just looks like he's the one that's going to be pushed out for now. And then Rory Sloane bust, and we've got Cunnington and Prestia as well. So yeah, that's the kind of like updated tier list. As I mentioned, I'd be picking primarily from this top group, and then maybe one or two of your favourites from the A tier. If you're going for a risky choice, like Cripps, Rao, and Taranto are probably the three that I like most. But if you do have any questions or want me to talk about my thoughts on any of the others, please hit me up with a comment. And then finally, this is kind of like the full list, so you can see the big changes here. So Zach Merritt and Mcrae had the biggest jump, but Bont, Josh Kelly, Fife, and Libba all kind of had reasonable jumps up as well. The big fallers were Cripps on the back of his like 60 odd, Adams, which makes sense with the injury history, but then you've got, you know, people that some of the players people were a little bit bullish on that have kind of fallen off. So Petraka didn't score particularly well. Titch has been injured. Crouch is a bit of a nothing pick. Walsh, Rao didn't really show much. Treloar hasn't been around. Lyons, which I don't know, it was already too high, so this kind of feels a good correction. And then finally, so how many premium midfielders are people starting? And I was actually really surprised by this. 5 seems like it's going to be a really big stretch, just given what we know about the rookies at the moment. I would honestly be shocked if anyone's starting 5, true premiums. I think, maybe some people are doing like 3 and Rao and Taranto, and that's kind of how you get to 5, but that's really risky. Wouldn't be doing that. And then so I'd be looking at 4, and I'd even be, considering 3. There's a world where like you need to go 3. You need to cut one of the more expensive premiums out of your team and spread that with those expensive 200 price kind of, bottom mid prices or really expensive rookie options, just to make sure you've got enough coverage across your team. So I'd be considering that, what that structure looks like for you before round 1 teams hit. And then finally, we can see which midfielders have been actually been selected. So super surprised that Zach Merritt's number 1. Like, that is crazy how much the Discord's kind of jumped on board and jumped around him. Like, I think this is from 34 responses or something like that. So there's only 3 people that don't have him, which is like wild. You can see Neil has dropped off a little bit. So I think 2 reasons here. Just being able to save the 100k really helps structure. I think that's going to bite a lot of people, including probably myself, who doesn't have him in his team at the moment. But I can see like why people are doing it, because if you just need the 100k, dropping Neil down to someone like Oliver or Steele, like, just really frees it up. But then also just, having that calf complaint during the preseason, I think that has got people a little bit spooked, which is probably overrated. I mean, he's been super durable across his career, still played the preseason game, so yeah. So then Oliver and Mcrae. So yeah, Merritt, Mcrae, Oliver, Neil, and like that's a great midfield. If you've got those 4, then kudos. I guess the other popular options then are Steele, Kelly, and Rao. Yeah, all good choices. Some weird ones here, like Tim Kelly. Must be an Eagles homer or like joke kind of response. Walsh has definitely dropped off. Still a few Cripps Truthers, don't hate that. Tom Mitchell, I think that's one you probably avoid. I think there's enough other good options that with him not having a real preseason, you can kind of wait until later on in the year to pick him up. But yeah, that's all the midfielders re-ranked. Let me know if you agree, disagree. And yeah, if you do have any questions about the ones that I didn't speak to as much, please hit me up. Otherwise, best of luck finishing your team. Hopefully these tier lists have been useful and kind of giving you ideas around the types of premiums you should be going for, which are the ones that other good super coaches actually like and prefer and are putting in their sides. And if all goes to well, I will be back tomorrow with a team reveal. So I will see you all in the next one. Thanks.